Hello everybody, my name is Hellfired. I am a top 500 DPS and support in Overwatch, and a fairly high-ranked player on Marvel Rivals, and the current analyst for Vengeful. Today I'll be giving you a comprehensive guide on how to play Invisible Woman. In the background, I'm going to be have my own gameplay of Invis, and I just like to clarify that, I don't make every play perfectly, I am just a human, I do make mistakes. And even in this gameplay, I will be making mistakes that I could point out. But I'm just going to show you how I like to play Invisible Woman and how I believe is the most effective and efficient way to be playing her. And hopefully, the way that I play her will be surprising, and you're going to notice some differences in your own Invisible Woman gameplay. So something I've noticed throughout my time in playing Marvel Rivals is that there aren't enough guides on how to effectively and efficiently play heroes. So I wish to rectify this issue. I'd like to start by first going through Invisible Woman's abilities. Now, I won't be showing on screen her abilities, but you can go into game and look at them yourself. I'm just going to explain the general gist, right? Anybody who's watching this video should already pretty much know how to play this character, but just in case you didn't, we're going to go over them. First, we have Guardian Shield. This is her shield. It's arguably one of her most crucial abilities. Shield provides healing on cast, and when your team or yourself stands near it, it also provides healing, as well as blocking damage. And it has a small slowing effect if enemies pass through it. Now, keep in mind, this shield, if timed well, can block an infinitesimal amount of damage. What I mean by that is, let's say an Iron Man ults you, right? And you press the shield at a good time, and you play in the shield correctly. You will not die from the Iron Man ult, which does, a lot of damage that should kill Invisible Woman. It does this to other abilities too, but just keep that in mind for any ability like that. It also, if you play in it correctly, blocks CC, because shields block CC in this game. So, this ability, I believe, is Invisible Woman's most important, most crucial ability. And we'll get into that later on in the video. Invis's second ability is called Psionic Vortex. It's her little ball that she throws out. It's a reasonably sized projectile that you can throw out, obviously, and you can cancel with the ability cast a second time. So if you just press shift a second time, cancels the ability basically. The important thing to know about this ability is that it has a pseudo grounding effect. So grounding effects being like things shift, Bucky shift, right? They make it so you can't use movements. This thing is like that, but it only does that for flying heroes. It also has a 40% slow if you stand in the middle of it. This ability is going to be used in our main combo, right? When we play Invisible Woman. Invisible Woman's third ability is called Force Psychics, which is a pushing/pulling CC ability. This will be one of our main sources of peel and playmaking potential, which you'll see in this video. Invis's fourth ability is just her shield again, but she can cast on herself. Very important ability to keep in mind. Invis's fifth ability is called Veiled Leap, which is just her jump, which on cast procs her passive. Her passive is called... I'm be honest, I don't know what her passive is called, but basically, her passive makes you invisible, and it makes it so you heal. Pretty strong, pretty important to know. Yeah. Invisible Woman's final ability is her ultimate ability. It's called Invisible Boundary. It's a large ultimate ability, reasonably, that has a 165 HP per second heal and a 55% slow on it. And any enemy who is caught inside of it, their allies, if they are on the outside, cannot see them. They also can't see your allies. Very important to know. The only other thing of note that we should be talking about in Invisible Woman's kit is her melee. On the third hit of every melee, there is a small booping effect. It's about a 5-meter boop. It can be helpful in both peeling and in your melee weaving combo that you'll be doing in-game and that you'll be seeing me do in-game a lot. Last thing I like to talk about before getting on to everything with Invis is our general combo that you'll be seeing me use in-game. This general combo is it's the culmination of using your shift, your push or pull, and your melees coupled with your left click. Generally speaking, you want to use your pull to keep the enemies in your vortex, while using your melees and your left click to intertwine damage. Now that the explanation's gone, let's get on to how I like to play Invisible Woman. Generally speaking, I believe most players play Invisible Woman wrong fundamentally. Now, what I mean by that is, this hero is very strong. Uh, and for every support I see in my games, generally speaking, and I play around in, C1 Eternity top 500 area, to be doing sub 20k damage in 10k plus minutes has to be criminal. That doesn't mean stop healing your team and DPS, but what it does mean is we need to shift our mindset from this idea that we have no control over the match and all we can do to influence it is heal. The reason the role is called Strategist is because it should be the most strategically advanced role on the map, meaning it should have the most thought going into it. Yes, I know, thinking. You as a support player are capable of influencing the game much more than you might think you can. Let's start with playstyle. I personally play a very aggressive Invisible One, looking to shoot the enemy rather than heal my team. Now, that might sound foreign to you, but what I mean by that is, I look to do damage on the enemy, and whilst doing damage, if my teammates are in strategically good positions, they will get healed at the exact same time. Now, that doesn't mean I don't heal my team, right? If someone's on an off angle, I heal them, right? And you'll see that throughout this game. Generally, though, that's my thought process. If someone's standing in front of me and they're playing correctly, they will get healed while I shoot the enemies, so I can do damage. Of course, if my team doesn't play correctly, I have to adjust mid-game, right? And play different. I like to look for early and mid-fight pulls on the front line to create space and timed aggression on isolated backliners. What this means is I couple my shift and my E on their front line to put their front line into bad positions so that my front line can get the advantage. What this also means is when I feel that I have an opportunity to, take an off angle or fight a DPS or support that is isolated, I take that opportunity and I use the combo I was talking about earlier. Invisible Woman can 1v1 people. She can 1v1 pretty much anyone, honestly. Even tanks. Don't go out of your way to 1v1 tanks, please. Now, when I don't have my ultimate ability, even when I don't have my ultimate ability, I do play a little bit more passive behind my team. But that does not mean I don't look for plays with my push, pull, and my shift. An Invisible Woman in a game that is playing optimally can keep up a majority of her team by herself, while keeping herself safe. I know, sounds like a lot, but it isn't. Now, you do not need peel on this hero. Let me explain. If you get dove by, let's say, 1 to 2 divers, that seems reasonable, you do not need your team's help, okay? Invisible Woman's kit is very strong. It's strong enough to deal with 1 to 2 divers, not by herself, but coupled with a support that is, quote-unquote, patty caking. That's what we call, basically, just you and your other support healing each other. Now, anything more than that, dive-wise, yes, you will need some assistance from your team, right? But generally speaking, you can live 1 to 2 divers. As long as you are positioning well, you are looking for the dive pre-fight, and you are and you are fighting back. Now, if this concept seems like, what? I can't even comprehend that thought, or when I play ranked, this happens or this happens, right? Obviously, every scenario is different, and every game is different, but if you do want a comprehensive, fundamental guide on how to deal with and how to dive, I can make that later on if that's something you want. Bottom line is, if it's 1 to 2, you should be fine as long as you maintain healing your other support, positioning well, and actually fighting the divers off until they are forced out. Forced out is a very key word in this scenario. And then you need to go back to supporting your team. I like to call Invisible Woman a DPS's support. Now, what I mean by that is, her kit caters very well to supporting hit scan and flank DPSs in making their plays. Support in this game is very much flawed in the way that people think about it. Right? People just heal their front line and they hope that things happen. Where in reality, you should be healing your backline a lot more than you think you should be. You should be supporting your DPS on off angles and supporting your divers on making plays with your push and your pull. The most important part about Invisible Woman's kit, as we talked about earlier, is her shield. Now, when you're supporting a hit scan DPS on their off angle, you should be using shield on them. You should be healing them. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be healing your tanks, but you should be looking at them. Now, that also doesn't mean you should be letting your shield break. I already talked about earlier, your shield is very, very important. And letting your shield break to heal your DPS because you left it on them and you forgot is not okay. You should be taking that back almost as soon as you put it on. Generally speaking, when I think about my shield usage and my shield uptime, I like to put a priority list on who needs my shield. Number one, it is me, above all else, because if I'm dead, I can't help anyone, right? So me living is the most important, right? Number two is my secondary support. Same concept applies, right? If I'm dead, then my other support can't live, and if my other support can't live, then the rest of our team can't live. So my shield is for me and then them. That's generally how I look at it. Number three is anyone who in that moment needs it immediately. Now, this looks like critical players, people who are, critically in the critical state with the little, X over their head, or people who are severely out of position. Now, a person who's severely out of position is someone who needs a lot of care to get back to safety, right? Number four is my tanks generally. They don't need shield, right? If a tank needs a shield, they are probably dead. Furthermore, the shield shouldn't be out for long on anybody. A tank, yourself, unless you're using your shield to peek aggressively or defensively. If you need to fully shield a tank, let's say, or yourself or anybody for that matter, they are likely dead because their position is bad. When I play Invisible Woman, I tend to cancel my shield almost as soon as I put it out, and you'll see that a lot throughout this game. I only want to use it for burst healing and burst blocking of damage, right? It is a 200 HP on the shield, right? It can block 200 damage, and it can block an instance of more than 200 damage. So, that all to say, shield HP is very important to me. It should be important to you. And the reason I think it's so important is just in case you need it for other reasons. A good example of this is, have you ever shielded someone, it broke, and then you got strange ulted, and you're like, ugh, gosh, I got strange ulted, right? Well, that wouldn't have happened if you had better shield management. Now, this is the next thing I'm going to talk about. You need to stop using Invisible Woman ult to counter ults. Now, let me explain. What I mean by this is, every support player, or I feel like every support player, believes that their ult is only meant to counteract ultimate abilities from enemy players. Whereas in reality, this is not true at all. Now, that doesn't mean that your ultimate ability is not used to counteract enemy ultimate abilities. It definitely is. But you're only using it in that one facet of the game. You can use it in so many other areas, right? A good example of this is you can use it to stall point, save people pre and mid fight. You can use it aggressively. You can use it to make plays yourself. Don't get stuck on this one playstyle that you have in your mind about how you, must play the character. I'd like you to think about limit testing, theory crafting, and thinking outside of the box. Not only the box that you think, but the box that people attribute to you. Support is a very, very strong role, okay? Dare I say broken? I know, very scary word, I say. But it's true. Support is a very strong role, and you are allowed to make plays. It's not just your DPS and tanks who make plays. Now, your plays look a little different than a DPS or tanks play, though. They're a lot smaller, they're a lot more micro/macro, and they're a lot more important than other people's because they allow your players who are not you to make the plays. If that doesn't make sense, I can go over these things later in other videos when I explain my comprehensive support guide. But generally speaking, that's all I wanted to talk about in Invisible Woman. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Flame me if you don't like what I'm saying. Honestly, I don't care because all I need is for everybody to think about the game differently and think about their heroes differently. And support is a role where you should be doing damage, healing, using your CC, looking around, healing more than frontline, and so much more. Thank you for your time, everybody who was watching this video. I really appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video. If you didn't like the video, throw a dislike on it. I really don't care. And above all else, have a nice day and keep on keeping on.